so much. I shimmy, so much, shimmy, move that much. And China nipa, Afro nipa. I know they better too much, but men so me what feelings be. And to we are my dear.
Hello, welcome to Afro-Centric series. Afro-Centric series brings you nothing but culture, tradition, religion, festivity, you name it all. Today, I have here with me my co-host and several other beautiful people on this panel and handsome men. My name is George, your host, and my co-host, Ukei.
Hey! So we're just going to start by introducing everyone, and the topic for today is cultural appropriation. So what we're going to do is everyone's going to go through and tell what their name is, what country or what perspective they're representing, and then also what their idea of, in a sentence, what their idea of what cultural appropriation is. And then we'll read the definition that Wikipedia or whatever has on it afterward. So we can start over here. Go ahead. What's your name?
My name is Eliezer Nan. I'm from Ghana. When I think of cultural appropriation, the only thing that dawns to me is when a dominant group of people take parts of a less dominant group of people's culture and then turn it into something else.
Okay.
That's how I understand it.
My name is Ornella Jubikilai, so I'm from Congo. And for me, when I think about it, it's just like using somebody else's culture, so.
Oh,
You
my.
say it too.
When I think about cultural appropriation, I think about taking someone's culture based on the fact that it's significant at the moment and using it for your advantage.
I would agree with that one.
My name is Joseph from Ghana, and when I think of cultural appropriation, I think it's a dominant culture or a dominant race taking advantage of a less dominant race's culture and making money out of it or making profit from it.
My name is Danica. I'm Black American. When I think about cultural appropriation, I think of it as when you're taking a culture and you're not showing that this is where it comes from. Mm-hmm. You're just taking it for yourself, or like, oh, it's your idea and you're making money off of it, or you're making a profit and you're not really showing where it really comes from.
My name is Blanche Mukendi from the Congo, and my definition of cultural appropriation is similar to Danika's in that you take what is not yours and you try to take credit for it.
Mm-hmm. I'm Nancy from Nigeria, and I agree with all of them. It's pretty much adopting another person's culture, not knowing its origin, and making something else, making it seem significant for you at the time.
Perfect. So I feel like we all have kind of the same idea, so I'm going to read.
No, but you did not say yours.
I agree with... I agreed with you! So mine... Oh, and I'm representing half American, half Rwandan. But I would agree that it's taking someone else's culture and not giving it the due respect that that culture is asking for. Because sometimes... Yeah, anyway, that's what I would say. But... in Wikipedia, the most credible source out there, guys, it says it is at times also phrased cultural misappropriation, so that's another term for it, is the adoption of elements of a minority culture by members of the dominant culture. Because of the presence of power imbalances that are a byproduct of colonialism and oppression, cultural appropriation is distinct from equal cultural exchange. And I want to make that point before we go forward, that most of us, cultural appropriation is by definition an uneven exchange. It's not respecting each other's culture. By definition, it's not respecting each other's culture, and it's not cultural exchange. So I just want to put that out there, that if we start saying, but if I wear this, then da-da-da, then that, and my friend, it's okay if she wears it, I'm excited when she wears it, that's cultural exchange. Mm-hmm. That's not your friend taking it and then saying, I made this up. Okay. So that's just... And I feel like we all pretty much have that same baseline. Mm-hmm.
So when we do talk about cultural appropriation, what are some of the factors or the things that other people would do as living in America that offend you, that you think is not appropriate? I can start.
Yes, I was like, can you start? Because you had a pretty strong feeling about something, and we can all kind of go from there.
Because I have a problem when I do see Black Americans wear African fabrics or the dashiki and stuff like that, and they claim, oh, I'm going back to my roots, whereby they do not understand most of the concept of our traditions and our culture. To me, it offends me because our fabrics means a lot. It has different communication that it portrays to other people, and if you don't know the essence of it, don't wear it. Don't just say because you're black and you live in America and you're being classified as African American, so you're entitled to wear this. For me, from the onset, most black Americans never embrace the fact that they were Africans to begin with. Sorry.
Struggle.
The struggle is real.
Talking.
They never really embrace that, but all of a sudden they are trying to lean towards the African culture just because it's trending, and I find it very inappropriate, and I don't think it's right on any level just because it's trending and people have acknowledged it, so you're taking it to be, okay, now I'm African. No, you're American because you're from an American land.
That is a very interesting point, and I will say it's a point that was discussed a lot when Black Panther came out, and then everybody was all about Wakanda, and some people didn't even know that was not a real place.
Yes.
However, there are some people who loved it even before. Does anybody have a view that's opposing that one?
Yes.
Okay.
So I attend an HBCU, so it's a lot of Black Americans in my school. And when Black Panther came out, they're like, "Oh, Nancy, can your sister make some clothes because she makes clothes? I for stitches, so I'll see you."
Hey.
But they're like, "Can she make me some clothes? I want to wear it to the movie." I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Because we love the movie Africa, and we want to get closer to our roots." I'm like, 2 weeks ago, this was not something you're interested in. Now you want that shikis. Now I'm like, sure, I'll sell the clothes to you. Look, my sister's making money.
Right.
Let's do this. And they're like, I'm like, so what's the reason? Why are you trying to wear this? Why don't you just wear your regular clothes like you do to watch any movie? And they're like, well, this is us accepting and trying to learn about the roots. I'm like, okay, so after the movie, come and tell me about the roots that you've learned. And real quick. They're always like, oh yeah, we're African American, and then 2 days later they're like, no, I don't want to be called African. I'm from Texas. I'm from this. I'm from this. Because you think I'm black, you think I'm African or something like that. I'm like, so 2 weeks ago was something you're not interested in, but the movie came out and it's something everyone's about. But now I feel like the hype about the movie is gone. So back at school it's the regular, oh, we American black people. So it's just, they never really gave me a definite reason, but I guess since it was trending, that's something they're like, oh, let me go and do this. But I mean, there's some genuine people at my school that are like, they were even teaching me stuff about Nigeria that I did not know about. They're like, yeah, I know y'all fabric means something. I know this pattern means something, and that's why I got it, because I watch these documentaries. I don't just watch the news and feel like Africa is just a village or something like that. So I just feel like there's always a mix of people that are like, I genuinely want to learn about it, and there's some people that, oh, Wakanda, let's go there. Nancy, do you know there? I'm like, yeah, sure, it's close to my village. Like, I just feel like
everybody in Africa is so common.
It's like you gotta weed it out. Some people genuinely want to learn. Some other people, since it's trending, but now it's over for them. So we'll see what's next.
As an African American, you're our token. You're our token right now. Have you ordered the shiki? Okay.
I feel like there's just there's a mix. I can understand how you can feel as far as like people not knowing where it comes from and like just kind of putting it on because they think it's cool and it is a trend. But I also feel like as a Black American, I feel like there's a big part of us that we do feel like we're lost because there's a lot of people that really want to know, but there's nowhere for us to start. Like, for instance, I try to be like, okay, go to my grandparents, and then there's a certain way where it's going to stop. I can't continue to go and be like, well, this is actually where I'm from. So, like, me also trying to figure out, in being lost, it is a want and a feel to want to know where we belong, because like, yeah, we have Black culture, but in a sense we also don't necessarily feel American. So it kind of changes that. Like, I can understand how you feel about that, but in a sense we still feel like wherever we go, we're not going to be accepted anywhere. And we're trying to get back to where, okay, well, where are we accepted? Where do we come from? What does this mean? Even with people, like, with it being a trend, I agree with it being a trend. Like, I do say it is a trend, but I don't agree with them, like, people trying to go after it because it is a trend. But I do feel like there is still, like, a big loss of, we just still trying to figure out where we go. And it's also, like, when people are like, oh, I'm not African, I don't agree with that either. But I can see why they say that, because for so long, it's like, well, looking like this, like, you're not appreciated. So you want to feel like you're appreciated. So you try to move towards more, what's more American, what looks better. And a lot of people think looking American is better, so that's kind of a reason.
And by society, by American society standards, it is more not productive. What's the word? Positively looked at to be to.
I think today I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, and I think prior to we starting everything, we talked about adoption. I'm sorry to bring that up, and then we talked about how it's linked to cultural appropriation, and I hint on the fact that. If somebody adopts a child from a different background, with time, if they're not culturally inclined to raise the child, with time the child will grow up and feel a certain type of way as to not belonging and not. Granted, you feel that way, or Black American feel they don't belong in here whatsoever because of their race or because of their complexion, but they've grown here, their heritage has been long gone. Why is it that we cannot make the best and most out of it? Because America itself is a land of different people, different diverse background, but everybody claim American citizenship. We do have Jewish living in America. They don't have that feeling. So why is it that like the Black community in America here cannot embrace the fact that, okay, this is us, this is where we found ourselves, let's make the best out of it? I know they have fought the longest to have their freedom, to have a sense of equality, but why is there a standstill at some point?
They also came in a very different way than Jewish people came here.
Correct.
But Blanche, you looked like you were not.
Yes. Just stepping back a little bit into cultural appropriation itself and what George said about Black Americans and wearing a dashiki and all of that. For me, I have no offense against that, just because to me I see the effort, whether it's because Black Panther hyped it up or whatever it is, whatever the reason was, I see the effort or the desire, and I see it as a learning moment. Let's all come together. Listen, you don't know, there's Kikwembe, we call it, because we're from, Congo. Here they call it dashiki, over there they call it Ankara fabric, but it's different. It's the patterns, it's Yamado, it's a learning moment for everybody. I feel like when we get so technical about things, just because I've been on both ends, I've lived here long enough to where, for the most part, a lot of people have told me that I've lost my accent. So oftentimes, I'll pass as a Black American. Many people say, oh, I thought you were just, I had one girl, she was like, I thought you were just from here. They wouldn't know until I speak another language. And then they're like, oh, you're not from here, right? Because I can do, and because of that, I've gotten good at doing different accents. And I've been on both sides. I've been able to see, okay, the loss or for my family back home to say, girl, you're American now, you're not African. And for Africans to be like, you're American, for Americans to be like, no, you're not quite American. Right. So there's that sense of, okay, I need to define this for myself. However, I feel, I'm gonna say this, cultural appropriation is just people being in their feelings, getting too offended about things that shouldn't matter.
So. Granted, you're right on that, but then when it comes to cultural appropriation, I think everybody will, even though it's a general topic, it's general that everybody should talk about, but people will narrow it down to their encounters and their feelings. Because my view will actually come from my encounter from the Black American community, from the Caucasian community, and how I feel towards them. Because when I first got here, I had a general view. I embraced the culture, the American society, and the community, until I had to step back because of my encounters with certain people within the community. And it wasn't just one, it wasn't just two, it was a lot. So to me, a lot of numbers with the number of people I come in contact with, if I have 10 will sum up to 100%. So statistically, it will be my wholesome number. Right. So that will make me step back. I've had the chance to work with predominantly African American community, and I wasn't accepted. I felt a certain type of way. They didn't embrace my culture. They make fun of my accent. They thought my competence is built on my accent, therefore I'm inefficient. You get it? So those little bitty things made me step back and look at the whole picture like that. And I've had a professor who is a Caucasian think I have an accent, and he will ignore me, and he did ignore me in school. So when I look at different things, I feel like people are not culturally inclined to embrace other people's culture. therefore, certain things we do is very inappropriate. And even when we talk about the dashiki thing that I said, I feel like if I'm not being embraced, why would you embrace my culture? Because that's me, a representation of me.
And I will say what you were describing at the beginning when we were doing definitions is culture exchange.
Culture exchange.
Correct.
That's what I was
Because
going to
that's not
say.
culture
Because I
appropriation.
feel like that is more of a culture exchange. Because personally, on that token, I'm not offended if I see a Black American wearing the dashiki.
That's culture exchange.
However, I do get feel a certain way if I see a white person wearing dashiki. I do. I just feel like, okay. Why? That begs the question though, why is it like that? Why is it because I guess their melanin is like mine and they like melanin. I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be wearing that. But there, I'm like, okay, you can. Let me come. Let's talk. Why would you?
How do you
I think
feel?
Anela has something to say.
Yeah.
So I agree with you because I don't feel offended about it because I feel like African American are trying to find the roots. They are like, even if it's like because of a trend or because they're finding a way, you know. If it wasn't because of Black Panther, maybe they would have never be like curious enough to go and start research, because some of them went and start doing some research and they know more about it. Maybe because of the movie that we are they are trying to, I know, like going back and trying to maybe find out where they belong to, where they come from and stuff like that. So I don't feel offended. But when it comes to white people, unless you grew up, maybe you went to Africa, you go back and forth and maybe you live there, I really feel offended. So I feel like for African American, I give them a pass.
How do you feel about it?
I feel like, you know, with cultural appropriation or cultural misappropriation, I think they're the same thing. And I think there's a line between cultural misappropriation and cultural assimilation. There's a difference. Because when I come to America, right, when I live here, I'm forced to dress. If I was wearing boxer shorts walking around all day, I'm not going to dress the same way over here because there's different weather conditions and all those kind of stuff. So I'm going to end up dressing like Americans. I'm going to wear fur and all those, if I can afford it.
Gucci, Prada,
cultural appropriation is taking representing people the wrong way, right? Like this Wakanda movie, I watched it the first time because of all the buzz that was going on, but I never watched it again because they misrepresented Africans.
Correct.
Even with the accent.
Oh yeah.
My friends, welcome to Wakanda. I know that.
Yeah,
Africans don't talk like that.
And that is a very good point.
That's very disrespectful to me.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
I felt uncomfortable throughout the whole show.
Why? Because those people, if you really wanna, if those white people, Marvel produced that shit, all those stuff. Marvel had to go to African, shoot the movie in African, give all those people in African a job to do.
Yes, that's true.
You know, all those actors that want to be on the big screen, you give them opportunity to be extras. All those background stuff. Give people jobs over there. And what are you doing? Like, those people will make like over $1 billion, right? But Africans.
It was so funny when you said that. I applaud you on that, and I applaud you on the cultural assimilation part. And then with the accent part, sorry, I had this conversation and I was like, I feel offended why Lupita Nyong'o had to take that deal and fake that accent. And people said, oh, that's her career, that's her job. That's your career, that's your job, but you're a representation of Africa. The moment you decided to embrace the fact that you're from Kenya, you know you're representing a whole nation, not just yourself. So if you're faking an accent, make sure your accent is very directed to an African country, not the certain parts of it. And you get it. So to me, it was more culturally assimilation in that movie. She was trying to assimilate herself with the other cast on that movie. And
Can
I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So do we feel like Black Panther was cultural appropriation?
Cultural appropriation
on a different level.
They're different on a different level. Like the accent, everything. Like to me, it's like cultural appropriation is more like stealing other people's culture.
Which
right?
they did.
They did. They stole African culture. And it wasn't even black people. It wasn't even black people that produced the movie. Marvel is a white, super white.
They did have a black director.
And then
I'm not saying it was enough.
They are making all the money.
I'm not saying it was enough. I'm just
What
saying.
donation went to Africa?
Google all the income, all the money, amount of money.
Let's talk it back a little bit. Let's talk it
Yeah.
back a little bit. My world is all white, right? I believe we're talking about Africans and African Americans, and coming to this conversation, I felt differently about it. But after hearing from everybody else, I'm kind of siding with African Americans a little bit on this part because I feel like they're just trying to make a connection, right?
Who are the African Americans to you?
So I don't even know if we can say they are misappropriating our culture, right? No offense, I feel the same way. I get offended when they wear the shikis and do all this stuff. But ultimately, if we sit here, I look at my sister and she looks just like me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We all come from the same roots. She's probably just lost and don't know her roots, trying to find her way. Like she said, we're trying to belong to something.
Yeah.
Can we blame her for belonging to something? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I love jazz music as an African. That's an African American thing, right? No offense, Joseph, but your jeans, the type of jeans you're wearing, speaks a lot about African Americans.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're just the same people, right? Somebody is lost somewhere.
And I will say this, African Americans are not as different as Africans usually think they are. We are very, very similar in culture, in what we eat, in how we interact with our family members, in the respect that goes through our family, like how all those things. And so it makes sense for me. I think that the reason I don't like it when white people do that, wear dashikis, as much as I understand when black people do it, black Americans do it, is because white people don't really have that in their culture. They don't have it, I have to belong to something, I have to be a part of something bigger. Africans do, and we've held on to that even through black Twitter, black memes. There's a whole black area that white people have no idea about, that black people have made to create a community, because that is a part of who we are, and it's been a part of who we are for so long, and they've held on to it for so long. So it makes sense to me of why I want to belong to something bigger than what is my family that has been
So I think Anala has
I have a question for you. You are from Rwanda and in America. So if your dad were a dashiki, or you were because he's an American, but I also understand if he has the need to identify to your maybe your mom's culture or your culture. You know what I mean? So how would you feel about it? Just
That is different.
I said a pre-production.
Yes.
And she agreed with it.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. A person like, I don't want to bring it in.
Let him say, wait.
Those people like black people, right? She's married to Kanye. They have 3 cases, two or three cases, and those kids are technically black, right? But she went ahead of cornrows or braids, and people got mad. Black Twitter or whatever they call it, they got mad. But she's technically all her family members are Africans, right? So if she has braids, is that cultural misappropriation or
You asked the question?
Yeah,
so she's
gonna answer to that.
think about
I
it.
think the big thing about it wasn't necessarily like literally the fact that she had cornrows. It was the fact that she had them. She called them something else, and then she gave the credit to the hairdresser or somebody that was like white, and was like, that's not what that is.
Right.
This comes from like a completely, we've been doing this for years type deal.
Right.
That's what a lot of people were mad about. It wasn't the fact that she literally had cornrows, because like I have a friend, she's Hawaiian, and the father of her children are black. Her kids have like a Americanized first name, but their second name is Hawaiian. And how she stretches to him is that I want you to learn the Hawaiian name, even though you're not necessarily a part of my culture, because they still need to see that we're coming together, because they have both sides. They don't just have one side. So it's just about not giving the credit where
I think
yeah.
it would be different, even though you felt the type of way of your friends coming to you. It's the difference between them asking you to have your sister make them their clothes and going to a black American or a white person to make their clothes. And so the money is, even though money is not everything, the credit and the money would be going into someone else's pocket. So that money, the credit, everything the glory, the fame was going to be more rich.
And that's by definition is cultural misappropriation, because at the end of the day, it's not that Kim said, "Oh, I have cornrows and I'm just respecting the culture itself and assimilating."
Yeah.
She took it, made it her own, and gave credit to someone else as if she started something new, a trend.
I think
that's where people get offended.
Yes.
Like, what?
We've been doing this for years.
Correct, and we didn't get it. It was because the person was of a higher status. That's how come. I think we have a question from backstage.
I think I shouldn't have asked this question, but I'm the cameraman. I'll go ahead and ask anyway.
Shout out to Prince. He's doing a good job.
So why do we have to necessarily call a mixed child, especially from a black and a white man, black? Why not white?
No.
Why do you understand the question?
Yes.
Why do we always have to do that?
Your experience.
She comes from that background. So do you identify yourself as black or do you identify yourself as white?
So I identify myself in different ways, actually.
Okay.
So when I'm in a crowd that I feel like does not think that I am black, I'll make sure that it's known, like white people, I'll make sure it's known I'm black. I'm black, don't test it, don't try it, I'm black, that's the end. When I'm in a crowd of Africans, I'm very careful, even I'm kind of uncomfortable saying what I'm representing because I don't want to appropriate, because I don't want to say something that people are like, that is not what Rwandan would say. I only say my mother is Rwandan, my father is African. I am African because I've traveled enough and I know enough about the culture at this point to say yes, I am. And even if I might not agree with some things, or I can discuss them in a knowledgeable way. So I am African. I won't, it's hard for me to say I represent Rwanda because I don't know the specifics of Rwanda. I honestly probably would more say I identify more with Congolese because that's who I've surrounded myself since I was little. We did live there. My mom grew up there. So that's more what I would say. But even then I'm careful because I don't know a lot of tribes that are in Congo, and I don't know French, and I don't know Lingala, and I don't know all these things that I think it's important, that is important to the culture. So the question about my dad wearing that shirt, I am lucky enough to have a father who is culturally sensitive, and he would not wear that shirt unless he knew that it was made by African, the money went to Africans, that he's wearing it to honor somebody because they gave it to him as a gift, or even if he doesn't like it, he'll still wear it to honor because he knows the culture is honor the people who gave you that gift. So even if he's like, I don't look good in this, which he thinks he does not look good in them, he would still be like, no, put it on, that's fine. And he's done that he worked with Burmese people when they came over. He worked teaching them English. They gave him an outfit, I don't know what that clothing is called, but they gave him clothing to wear, and he wore it for their events because they wanted him to do that, was honoring it. Now I'm lucky enough that
I guess I'll take my.
He wouldn't just wear it to be like, I'm black too.
Based on your question, to answer your question that you had, if you have one black parent, black dad or black, you choose to identify who you want to be. Obama said, I want to be black. Obama could have said he was white.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have said that. Identify myself to be black.
I have 3 words next to why most mixed race persons are identified as black. Now even in some countries like in South Africa, there's white, there's black, and there's mixed race. You can actually identify as that. However, the reason they're more accepted by the black culture dates back to these 3 words: one drop rule. For me, that's exactly one drop. The fact that you can sit there all day and be like, well, I'm white, I believe if a white person looks at you, if some racist people walk by, they're going to say you're not white.
Right.
One drop rule.
But they all black mixed people who look white. So should they just say they're black because...
Not all white people. So I have a lot of time by Africans, they'll say I'm white. Yeah. And I do want to point out that there is a culture, like a language difference. Because when I hear the word Muzungu, which means white person, it doesn't necessarily mean white person, it means foreigner. So even if I was black, even she would be called a Muzungu.
I've been called a Muzungu.
Yeah, because it's not. So there's a cultural language difference there.
Yeah.
So when a lot of times Africans will call me white, but Black Americans will say, "Oh no, I thought you were black," because the one drop, like you look like you have black features, and so it's different from everybody. So I feel like even though I could identify with white, maybe white people will find a way. They will find, no, that curl is not
I feel the same way because if I was a mixed child, right, growing up in a white neighborhood, if my mom was white holding my hand and I looked black, right, I'll be looked at differently. So automatically as a child, I begin to notice that, and then I start just appreciating the black culture and relating more with them just because of the environment that I'm growing up in. So I think that's what makes a big difference for me.
Does that not count as identification, your self-identity, as opposed to cultural inappropriation or cultural appropriation? Because once we were all talking, I was getting representation mixed up with cultural appropriation, because I do have mixed race in my family, but how well are they representing their background? If you're not like, let's just say, I relate to what she said. When she gets to the black community, she feels a certain type of way, and then when she also hints on the fact that they're trying to find their culture, they're kind of lost. It kind of like resonates the same way towards me. But then Africans are the most people who are very sensitive to their culture, and I'm very African. I'm just trying to speak for most Africans. And when it comes to that, Africans they believe in morals, virtue. They are very judgmental. They're very hypocritical, and these things are attributes of Africans. And it's when we talk about cultural appropriation, they put all that input into correct. So if let's just say Danica, Black American, she is trying to embrace the culture. There are ways of an African that is not quite similar to an American. Their presentation is slightly different from ours. An African will just sit down and read her or judge her for her act or her ways. So those things actually sinks in when we start talking about cultural appropriation, because she's not representing the African culture, the African values, the African rules, and what's so not, the traditions.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? So, do we all agree, or do we think that the environment can actually influence our culture? Well,
cultural assimilation.
Cultural assimilation, yes, but it can become reality.
Yes, and the reason I thought about it, to connect your question with the question about mixed race, she brought up a good point. She said some mixed race person just look white. And one article that I read, it was talking about people who are mixed race and you didn't know they were mixed race. We know Nicole Richie, right? And she was, I thought she was white, but she's actually mixed race. But it's because of her environment. It's an effort, and her way, her mannerism, everything. I would have never thought. I watched the show that she had with Paris Hilton, and I thought she was Simple Life, and I was like, what? And it comes back to that. So yes, I think that there's so many factors, and among those factors, the environment has a big thing to do with it.
That's the reason why Africans get so angry when black people try to wear the dashikis and kente cloth and all those stuff. I saw that stuff. I get mad because African Americans don't classify themselves as Africans. They don't think they are Africans, right? A lot of them don't think they're Africans. Maybe a couple, maybe. They don't think they're Africans, right? So you're not African, but you want to wear dashikis and something that, and Africans, right? We feel like since slavery, maybe even before slavery, everything has been taken away from us.
Correct.
Our lands, you go to Zimbabwe, South Africa, they're taking our lands, they're taking all the minerals in our soil, the gold and diamond, the bauxite and everything. The only thing that we have that we can hold on to is our culture. So if you steal that from us, that's like you're stealing everything from us. Now we have nothing to hold on to.
Yeah,
that's
I have something to say towards what you say, but let Ornella
But
go.
you have to. There is a difference between slavery and then colonization. So those are two different things.
And they're both done by white people.
Yeah, but for African American, I understand the need. Even they don't identify as African because they've never been there, and they don't have like a grandma who's gonna talk to them about Africa. They don't have anything to connect with. Maybe it's because of the culture they're trying to connect, because you can, even when you do like a test, DNA test, they don't ever tell you like you are Congolese. They were like, 5% Nigerian, 7%. So even when you get just in one country like Ghana or Congo, you have like so many different cultures. So it's really hard for them to be like, I will go to Ghana, and then when you go there, you get so confused because there was this and that, and then this, and then you don't know where you belong to. So maybe for them, the way to identify to Africa is where the dashiki or whatever you want to call it, because we call it makeba.
But the reason,
yeah,
the reason why I'm saying that is, because we from Africa, right? I grew up in Africa. I didn't come here till I was like 21. So I grew up in Africa. I knew my culture, everything with the dashiki. I know where everything came from, how we have these patterns with the kind of clothes. I know how it all started. A spider, they copied it from a spider web, a spider weaving. They said, okay, yeah, we can copy this and make it into a cloth. So some people sit down and weave all this stuff and put it together. So it's very offensive when you go to Walmart and you see it contain $18. I'm not saying black people per se. Black people understand. So you go buy and
white people are taking that from us. And then when he said, I was going to say something about the Wakanda movie that relates to what he said. You remember when the guy said he wants to go to Wakanda, that's where he's from, and he went over there and they were like, oh, he's not one of us. And then the white person who stood there said, oh, he's not one of us, one of you people, he's from, no, he said, he's our, no, he said was like, he's one of us. He identified the black person to an American, yes. So he's not, and Wakanda itself, they never even embrace him to begin with. So when it comes to black people adapting to what I call African culture, I feel like they've been long gone, that even their background is washed, so they have an identification in America. So I feel like whilst they're here and American embrace them, there's a stereotype of black people said an angry black man, or no, there's nothing like an angry black woman or an angry black man in America. America itself is angry, period. White, black, no boundaries, no stereotypical part of it. But they have just assimilated that to you people, to black Americans, and they have taken credit for mental health. But we all go through different things. So when I think you were the one who said the location or the environment also attributes. So why is it that when they're here, the environment also doesn't appreciate them on mental health base and just put them into angry people? Because it's a white person who walks into a Waffle House and shot everyone. But if it's a black person, he doesn't get it. He or she doesn't get a jail-free card that says, oh, she also have a mental health. She lives in the same system and does the same thing. You get it? So it's a system that pushes them to find their identification. But they should also have to know that when you're pushing somebody to find identification that they don't have, of course, they will be lost.
And the reason for that is because for certain people, white people, the identification is by choice in America. For black people, it's by force. There was never a choice to be like, okay, I chose to be American. If we look at the history of it, it's by force. It's an identity that has been given. It's a lost identity. And for many, it's an effort to find that, to return and to try to trace that back. Recently, I had asked my dad, having grown up here, somebody had asked me, they're like, so where are you from? I was like, Congo. They're like, oh, what tribe are you from? I had the lines rehearsed. I was like, oh, I'm Muluba. Muluba from where? I was like, I don't know that. And that's why they were like, what? You know everywhere. And then I was like, hold on, let me go ask my dad. So I asked him, I'm like, what kind of, and he's like, oh, we're from Bakwa Boomba. He breaks it down, and I had to write it down. And I talked to the person, I was like, I got this. We are from Bakwa. And he's like, what's that? I was like, hold up, let me go ask him. So I'm sitting here lost, but I just appreciate the fact that I have a dad that I can go ask and trace it all the way back. And I understand the struggle of the black American to want to trace it all the way back, but hit barriers because they don't have that.
And that's not by choice, because when people did try to get together, and it's not a recent movement. This happened pretty much every generation, where people are like, please, let's try to get back to our roots. And every generation they come together, and then something like knocks it down. White people do not want black people to have identity, no matter what. So even when they were brought here, they would be separated depending on what language they spoke, because they didn't want the same people on the same plantation to be speaking to each other.
Correct.
So it was strategically lost. It wasn't just oh, somehow along the line we lost it. Strategically, it was wiped out. And so that's why I can't fault Black people for wanting to be a part
I
of
would want
this.
Danica to say something, and then Nancy to say something pertaining to this topic and where it's leading. It doesn't matter where you take it from, because you have different opinions, like different views.
Yeah. I mean, okay, going with like the Black Panther part, like I can understand how y'all can be offended as far as like this is not, y'all didn't do your research good enough to like really be like, this is what it is, you misrepresented my culture. I definitely understand it, and I can understand how you would be upset about that. I can definitely understand that. I think on kind of like me looking at it, it was also kind of like how people say representation matters, and this is the first time we feel like we can have all the representation and be so proud of something.
But you guys,
we can never be. Yeah, no, and I can understand that, because it's like if we don't talk. I mean, we also, like she said, she has her dad to go talk to. We don't have anybody to be like, oh, because it's like this is the first time I'm hearing like a different side as well, because I've never heard
There's
that.
African Twitter.
But they have into that movie to educate you, to educate most of the people well and accurately,
but they
which they failed.
Yeah, they failed, but not the Black Americans in general failed.
And I applaud the effort. Don't get me wrong. It's a discussion. It's some topic we need to have, and we're having it because most of the Black people here are not being educated, and I feel very sad for my nephews that are born here, because they will be lost. They have a white mother who will teach them the American way, but at the end of the day, how much of the culture will my brother put in? Because in America, once you're in America, and Americans have the upper say on everything. So even if you're married to one, you're lost.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Okay.
So just, sorry.
Nancy.
Okay, I feel like
Nancy, then you.
The frustration Africans have is when they encounter some Black Americans, they're like, oh, you're African? Oh, you speak like this? Oh, and they feel so disrespected. And in the same light, they turn around and put a dashiki on. So that's why I feel like Africans are upset, because yesterday you said, oh, I'm African. Oh, because at my school, they say foreigners come to our school and they take our internships, they take our jobs, and you guys need to go back. So that's why we're so frustrated, because they sit down and say, oh, you foreigners come here, you guys have all these good internships, you guys get all these jobs. I'm like, we have to work 10 times harder to find the internship. Then you sit out and type like this and you get it just like that because you're American. You have to like internship for foreigners. I'm sorry, I'm very
Anela will say something, and then he will say something, because Anela also has an experience with that she needs to express.
So like all these applications, you have to be a U.S. citizen. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you have to do all this paperwork and yada yada yada. You have to work 35 times harder, and you sit down and they're like, oh, you guys need to go back. I remember somebody told me in school, like, oh, girl, you need to go back to Nigeria. I said, girl, my passport is blue and I also have a green one. Try again. Like, because you can't just sit down and say, oh, this person, you want to go here. And then you turn around and say, oh, I want to learn about African country. I want to learn about this. No, when Africans come to America, we sit down, we watch movies. Okay, this is how they say it. Cup. Okay, I'm going to say cup. You know what I'm saying? They're trying so hard. When we come here, like, Africans, you see, they try to force their accent so it's like the Americans, so they will understand them. If I go and say, hey, I want burger. I tried it the other day. I went to McDonald's, say, give me burger. Huh? Burger. You know what I'm saying? I said burger. B-U-R-G-E-R. You don't understand my English. So that's why whenever we come here, we try so hard so that they can understand us. But then you turn around and then you say, oh, you guys go back to Africa. You guys have lion in your zoo. No, you can go on the internet and you can find out that, oh, this happened in Africa. Oh, this cloth means this. Because I remember when I met my Ghanaian friends, like, I didn't know nothing about kente. I didn't know how long it took. I was like, maybe they just sewed it together. No, I didn't know. They actually went and they wove. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So that's something that I learned. And when I tell my American friend that, they're like, girl, I ain't worried about that. Oh, girl, I'm not worried about that. But then you come and tell me, oh, I want to wear this to wear and see what kind of movie. So that's where our frustration comes. I mean, there's always genuine people all over the world. They're actually trying. And I told you there's some people that actually teach me about something in Africa that I never knew about. So I just feel like, although there is barriers, you can always overcome those barriers. I feel like you can also work 10 times harder. Are you really determined to learn about this other culture? Are you really determined to learn about this shirt that you're wearing? Are you really determined? Because right now technology is crazy. You can learn so much. And I have friends that do like programs overseas, and they go and they learn about African stuff, and they come and they teach me. So I just feel like if you're determined, go and learn it. If you're not determined, sit down, but don't tell me nothing about Africa. Don't upset me.
So Onala?
But I think, okay, before I would go back, I would wanted to say first, it's easier for you to say it's easy to learn. When she do a DNA test, they tell her you're Nigerian, and then 5% Congolese, and then 5% Sierra Leonese, whatever it is.
Then learn about all of
No, but in just Congo itself, there are so many cultures, you don't even know where you belong.
And if it takes
like
you 10 years, learn and learn and learn.
Can you tell me the challenges you face in being in America before you give them credit?
I would say that especially because of my thick accent, I do get people saying that, oh, like I was saying to him that even if I live here 30 years, people will always keep asking, where are you from?
Yeah.
Where are you from? And I feel like America would never be home for me because I would always be like from another country. So I feel like, I think over time I accepted it, that I would never belong to here. So it's not, I'm not going to say it's a challenge anymore because I've overcame it. So, but to go back to what you said, I really want to start about and then she's facing like 200 maybe different cultures. It's hard for her to be like specific. Even if you go to the internet today, you look for Lualaba or whatever, you're not going to find much. Maybe you need to talk to your dad because it's true you find about Ghana, but it's very broad. You don't find anything about like a specific culture you belong to. And traveling is expensive too. Because I met a lot of African American who had the chance. I'm not gonna just say about African American, even white people. They're like, oh my God, I've been to Ghana and then I love the culture, and they appreciate what we have. You know, it's never. And when I see them more like the cheeky or talk about African instead of, I'm like, oh, actually you know about it better than some African American. So I usually don't get offended until I know somebody's story. That's why I ask about your dad, because I know he lived in Rwanda and then like he knows so much about Africa. He's not just gonna wear it because oh my God, it's trendy. So I feel like we usually judge people because they're doing stuff without knowing the real story and then maybe understanding their struggle. You know?
I think we're not judging them. We feel rejected just as much as they feel rejected too.
I wanted to know how do you feel about it. Why are you not interested to know more about it? Can I teach you something from what I know? You know what I mean? I always try to share what I have, and I think instead of just rejecting, saying this is mine, you can't touch it, we should be together. Can I share something with you? Can I teach you something? Can I maybe instead of saying, oh my God, now you are interested?
That's the culture within American. Can he say something?
Yes. So just She literally took the words out of my mouth. My biggest frustration with African Americans is the fact that they're not even trying to educate themselves. I've met white people who have told me more about Africa than I even know. You know what I'm saying? I met a white man who told me about Jerry Rawlins when he had his school, and this man was in Ghana at the time, right? And I had never even heard about it. African Americans are not even trying to learn these
and
things. Right?
You go ahead, you say yours.
Some of them are not even trying to learn these things, right? Now on the flip side of things, right? Living in Africa and growing in Africa, just belonging to a family, like she said, there's over 50 countries in Africa, so many ethnic groups, right? Even just in my family, you can be lost just because you don't speak the language as good as your cousin does. Right? You get what I'm saying? So I understand where you guys are coming from, but I also I belong to both sides, right? But education is the key, right? Don't look at me. The first lion I probably saw in my life was in the National Zoo. Don't ask me if there's a lion in the backyard. That's very insulting. That's very insulting.
And then they turn around and then they're like, oh, okay.
And so before she speaks, Blanche speak. The reason why I invited Danica on the show is when I first met her, she had the turban on, and she rocks African, But and her thing was she wanted to know, but she doesn't know where to start or how to start, and I applauded that.
There you go.
You get it, and I felt accepted and appreciated because she put in the work, and even she did not reject me as an African based on my accent, regardless. But I have met other Black Americans who straight up front rejected me. You get it? The booty scratcher, girl, I don't understand what you're saying. And if you if your face itch, you scratch. Why some of your eyes itch, you can't scratch? Exactly. And like culturally within Africa, it's okay to scratch your booty. I don't know about American culture.
Let me say something. Without this ancestry.com, the black people go.
They're making money off it.
This is the analogy I'm going to give. It's like somebody picking you up from somewhere, blindfolded, drop you off somewhere and say, give me money so I can take you back. There's too many roads to get to where I pick you up. I can take this road, I can take this road, I can take this road. That's exactly where I'm from. Where are you from? So it's just taking your money. 19, I don't know how much it's likely.
My thing is
I'm not getting what you're saying. No, I have questions. You think it's not a good thing? What are they supposed to do?
they're misleading people.
I think everybody here.
So even if it's not a scam.
Because
I had an African who did an ancestry test, and they told him he was from somewhere else.
Listen, a man from my mom's tribe took the test, and he's from Rwanda, and he was just taking it, and he loved it. So whatever, props to that. But when they told him, so I know that my tribe is Nilotic. So we followed the Nile. We came from Egypt, followed the Nile down into Rwanda. That's our tribe. We were nomads. But so his ancestry.com told him that it's not really where you're from. It's where people who have your DNA are. So they said that he was from India because they also were nomads, and they said it's just where groups of people move to. It's not real. So when they say that, I'm like, even white people are like, I have like 3% Nigerian in me. I had no idea.
I mean,
and I'm like,
I would take the test just because I think like I'd be related to like the queen. I have her. But what I wanted to say, I so sympathize with what you two said about the culture. When I first came here, I was 10 years old. 10 years old, all I've known is Africa. I've known Congo, I've known the language. I had to get integrated in the 4th grade. Kids are vicious. So I've had the African British culture. I had all the way from, I remember from 4th grade all the way to 7th grade I got made fun of. From the shoes to things I could not help myself. Where my parents were still trying to assimilate everything that I wore, I would get made fun of at some point. And I remember in 7th grade, eventually one guy told me, he said, go back to where you come from. And I told him, I said, well, do you not know that it's where you come from too? And he was black. And the whole room got quiet. But with that said, having grown up here, I have seen that there are also people on the same token making the effort to genuinely learn. So it's not fair for me to attribute the ignorance of the few to the general American culture. However, I want to point out something that came to mind when we were talking about this. You guys heard of the Global Citizen Festival that went on in South Africa? So I just came from there a couple of months ago. It's a huge thing. Global Citizen is an organization, pardon me if I may make an error, but it's an organization that helps to end like world hunger, education, bring awareness basically in Africa. Beyonce participated in it by doing a huge concert in South Africa. Beyonce went in all her Beyonce glory and did her Beyonce thing. I appreciated that, and she thanked the people of South Africa. She had the South African choir sing, people sing Ed Sheeran's song, or Sharon, or whatever. In a South African version. It was beautiful. She gave credit. Now Taraji also went. She did her thing, but Taraji, I was offended personally, just because the way that she went, she had the braids and she had the. And I understand she was trying to assimilate, but it's like, yes, but it was like, I looked and I was like, but what you're wearing it's not South African, it's more this portion of Africa. It doesn't look like you did your research too much. You just did something generally African to go to South Africa. To go to South Africa, but South Africa is a country. Africa is a continent. So learn which location you're going to, and if you're going to assimilate, let the people teach you. It's more genuine. Go as you are. And learn from the people rather than go there and try.
I think that is a beautiful way to sum up cultural appropriation.
Correct.
Go as you are. and let someone else teach you. But a lot of times people go as what they think someone else, even with the best intention, go as what they think someone else is, and then ask for advice.
Correct.
Which, if you don't know any better, then that's fine, but correct it once you know. But I think that's the problem, is that you're going and then, well, I mean, cultural appropriation, then you get money for it too. But like in general, on a lesser scale, is you aren't caring at all about doing any beforehand research. Which on the other side, on the African side, we have to do a lot of research. Well, I didn't have to. But yeah, everybody else on this count had to. And even you have to, in order to go into a white business.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, okay, so, I'm not allowed to say that. Oh, okay, so I'm not allowed to do this. Even that kid that just got his dreads cut off, like, there are many different sides to that. But, so I can't wear my dreads now. All of a sudden. Okay. We have to constantly be learning new rules that someone else is putting on us. So,
can I ask one last question?
Okay. We're about to wrap things up, so you can go, and then we'll just summarize.
This is for everyone.
Good.
Back to the dashiki. Okay, so you have the clothes. Nicki Minaj in the dashiki doing her thing. Katy Perry in the dashiki doing her thing. What's cultural appropriation? Is it both?
I don't like either of them. I'll say why.
Entertainers, right? At the end of the day, they're trying. You learn. These people, they have their publicists that tell you. Depends. You're going to perform in South Africa. You're going to perform in a African setting. Dressed like them, so those people will listen to you. They'll be like, because Africans, we accept other people wearing our stuff. When we see a white person wear something,
they're doing it here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Problem with that. Artists. Because if you're doing it here, are you representing us? What is the background story? Is the investment going to Africa? If the investment is not going to Africa, why represent us to begin with? You get it? Or is it going to a black community or a charitable organization that actually is a mixture of those? If not, don't do it at all. Don't try to embrace, because this is the thing.
She's from Barbados, right?
Correct.
So she could do that.
She cannot. She is an artist. She is doing it for her benefit, her profit. And this is the thing, the issue I have with that. Those artists are trying so hard to have a voice. You have your voice.
You don't see them going to the Oscars wrestling contest, right?
Don't represent other people to make you look good in the public eye. Just do you. I think we said go as you are, so they can. Yeah. So just do you. As an artist, you have your like Lady Gaga came with her identification or her thing. She did her thing through the entire career until she changed. She had a rebranding and everything. Don't rebrand yourself. You cannot be consistent with that. There's my things to you, Ron. So
I don't know. I believe in like globalizing everything, and then you can keep your culture, and then as long as people know where it comes from, I don't mind. So for me, Nicki Minaj or Katy Perry doing that, I don't mind as long as they're like, oh, I went to Africa and I like this. I wanted to share this with you. I don't think the money needs to go like somewhere, because sometimes us African artists too do stuff that is so maybe like a Michael Jackson because he's black, but any white person video and they do back home, but they're not paying any money to any other culture because they saw it. Even if you do like something from Asia or somebody else, you don't have to pay money or like, oh, so I made this money and I'm going to share it. No, but I feel like as long as you say that I want this place and then the last place and this is on mine, but just say it. It's not necessarily about the money, but it's more about the credits. Don't say that this is a new style that I made. I was thinking about it. I created this. No. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like.
That's like a double standard because when you say Africans, also say white people colonized Africa. So they taught us their culture. Their culture is embedded in us a little bit.
Very true. Now you have a choice. Now you have a choice. It's just like marrying, like wearing a wig or having a or accepting your hair. I'm going back from Africa and I came here was like in my 20s. For me, wearing my braids or wearing wig, for me it was just like, for me it was just like my culture, wearing like a scarf or whatever it is, for me it was acceptable. I could go to work, nobody would tell me, oh, you can't wear this at work. When I came here, like, I can't wear braid. Why? Like, what's going on? Talk about it. It's funny. I I feel like now we have a choice. We can't keep blaming it. Oh my God, I was colonized. Now you're not anymore. Now you're free, but you're still choosing to do that thing. You know what I mean? So now that you have the choice, but you're still choosing to do it, then I feel like as long as you give credit, when African American and white people do it, for me it's fine. It doesn't have to be necessarily about money. If it's more about credit, don't say, oh, I am the one who created this, or let me change the name. Let me just call it like this or that. That's where I disagree. But when it's, as long as you give credit, that's fine.
I will say, I wouldn't like it because they don't represent African values. Like going back to what you were saying, they don't represent African values. If she's twerking in her dashiki, not that African dances don't have some gyrating, some shaking, but she does it in a way that's not African. And Katy Perry does not do anything else that's African, so that doesn't seem like there's a point. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Like if we say, oh, okay, isn't that Jurassic Park or something? Jurassic Park, the wisdom. But
Katy Perry took an Egyptian theme for a video, and she did the whole thing. It was glamorous, it was beautiful because she had the money to invest, but the whole cultural concept of it was not embedded into it, which is culturally inappropriate.
Beyonce did the same thing, right?
Beyonce,
culture.
Beyonce actually takes African. She has African choreographer. Who Ran the World, girl.
Yeah, she did.
It was a South African choreographer who taught her the whole thing, but there was no credit.
Michelle from y'all, I was so mad.
That's Michelle.
Yeah.
When I said she says yes. That song.
Oh my God. The writers that are credited are her and someone else, and they're not African. And I was like,
I get mad because I'm like, we've been singing an overnight prayer way before she came out.
Until I learned, oh my God, you said you wrote this. You said
no, she didn't write it.
She didn't write it. On the iTunes, they
that was the best song I learned when I turned 2.
I get when people don't give credit, but if she was maybe said something like, oh, I went to Africa and then I liked this song, I decided maybe to change it a little bit, I think that's fine.
The problem is that she did, and she even filmed it in Nigeria, I'm pretty sure. So she beautifully, superficially, she did. Yes, African. I'm giving you all the credit. But at the end of the day, when you see who wrote the song, she says it's her. So even if you do superficially, like the representation thing, Black Panther was superficially black.
Oh yeah.
So superficially, and that it even goes deeper because they did hire more black people to work on it, which is great. It's a good start. It's a good start. And like starting place to correct, but
there's some of us in it.
But it's still superficial. And to put a black person on a billboard to say, oh, Dove is now diversifying. No, you're not. You're just putting someone on a billboard. So you can't just look at superficial and be like, oh, okay, everything's okay because they did this. And isn't that good enough? No, it's not good enough. Because everything that you've done to get to here has been colonization, it's been racism. And now you're trying to say, isn't it good enough that we have one black person on the team? No.
It's so great. Like we do have a lot of views and time. We do not have enough time. So yeah, I wish everybody can say whatever they want to say. But this conversation is going to transcend into our next show, and we will actually hint on this all over again. But we're just going to say it was really nice having all of you. The conversation will still keep going on. Cultural appropriation will never rest until people start giving credit. And basically, from what I gathered, everybody's take on this is just the credit and the presentation of the culture is more significant to us. So, do you have a final word to say before we close up? Oh, okay.
It's really final. Ultimately, look, I'm business minded too, right? I'm all about making money. If you don't educate yourself, people will take advantage of you.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I believe in. If you, as African as we are, the Chinese are over there drilling our oil. As African American as we are, we're letting the white man show us movies on TV so they can take our dime in the movie theater.
That's true.
So just educate yourself, so you should be okay.
Educate yourself.
So education is the key. No bad blood. We don't actually hate a specific culture or whatsoever. We do love everybody in general. We're just having a discussion. We're representing people's thoughts. that doesn't define us as individually. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, just go ahead, subscribe, like, share, comment. If your voice was not heard on this show, you can also comment with your opinions. We will address that, I promise. And Afro-Centric series, like we say, nothing takes you closer to Africa than its own people and tradition. And there you have it.
The words you say hurt me so much. I shame so much, shame me that much. And chana nipa huwa fno nipa. I know they bother too much, but men so me want feelings be. And see we my dear, I'm a tenny me mo. So me pesa me de wo huwa before be shame me mo. Treat me like your brother, and treat me like your sister,